to a new world of gods and monsters.
It's alive!
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight. See what goes on Halloween night.
Hey everybody, we are back for another episode of Why We Love Horror. As always, we got John and Melissa and myself. How are you both doing today? And are you excited to talk the Blackening and Tales from the Hood?
I got a free poster. So I'm very excited to talk about. But they did not bribe me in any way to say anything nice about this movie. But it did get a free poster, which is a first for Why We Love Horror. And I have mood lighting, which also just coincides. So it's a great week for me personally. The movies were also good.
Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here, and yeah, both movies were great this week, so that makes it a bit better because I, as you know, kind of struggle when the movie really sucks. So
Yeah, I'm also really excited about this week. One, I've been watching since I was a child, and then just seeing the Blackening in the theater, it's going to be a fun night. So I guess let's just get started with the Blackening.
Your time has run out. It's time to die.
There's a crazy person out here hunting us. You got Rosa Parks on your shirt, right? Would she be sitting down right now?
I mean, that's exactly what she did.
You can shut up.
Made you look. Made you look.
Why black women gotta save everyone all the damn time?
Oh, made you look.
Yo, stop playing.
I got a gun.
That's too DMX. What are you doing?
Melissa, would you like to take the plot synopsis?
Sure thing. So the Blackening is about a group of friends. They seem to be like college friends meeting up for the weekend, and they're staying at a cabin, and they're celebrating Juneteenth and kind of just reuniting with each other. And they discover this game room, and kind of the centerpiece of the room is this game called the Blackening. And they kind of discover themselves like having to play this game because there is a masked killer / unknown person at the time, at the beginning of the film, that's kind of like threatening their lives if they don't play the game. But this movie was a lot of fun. It definitely gave me like scary movie, Scream, Bodies, and like Clue kind of all mixed together. It was a fun time.
John, what are your overall thoughts for the Blackening?
It works as a comedy. It actually works as a horror too. There's a lot of really good jump scares. And usually I'm not like a jump scare guy, but in a horror comedy, I think jump scares are a lot more forgivable, I think, because it's funny. So I think it worked for exactly what they were going for. I think it worked perfectly. Like it's not like a hard line, like grotesque hardcore slasher. It's not like an over the top slapstick comedy. It's a horror comedy like we like. So I agree. It's a good time.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. The jump scares were great. The horror comedy, they hit that perfect tone for both, and it worked greatly. The references are fucking insane in this movie. What they pull out, or what they have in this movie is unexpected with some of the references that they throw out there, either through the questions or through what they're talking about. But overall, yeah, I had a great time with this movie. So let's get started with. It starts off with it going. The following is based on true events that never happened. It's a nice fucking touch. I like that very much. And as Melissa alluded to, it takes place on Juneteenth weekend, where we start off following Morgan and Sean arriving at a cabin in the woods, and they're just getting ready to have all their friends show up with them and have this nice weekend together. And as they're hanging out, killer's outside, and they find a game room where they see the board game, The Blackening. What did you guys feel about the opening to this movie with Morgan and Sean and them discovering the board game for the first time?
Yeah, I loved that type, what you just talked about, like the based on true events that ever happened. It actually gave me very much Cocaine Bear vibes with that kind of like the Wikipedia kind of thing. No, that was definitely a strong opening, and it was fun to see Jay Farrow again because I think he used to be on SNL for a bit, and I haven't really seen him do anything in a while, so that was good. No, I thought it was a strong opening. I mean, I love a horror movie that's like set in a cabin. Like that's usually it's a pretty typical kind of horror thing, but it's usually a good time. So I enjoyed the
A really
opening.
nice cabin. It's a very large house.
Yeah.
It's like a mansion in the woods, which is it's new. A little twist on that. The only small complaint I have about the opening is like Yvonne Orji and Jay Farrow are like both brilliant stand-ups, and like you only get a little bit of them in this movie. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, they're very strong comic actors, and we only get like 5 minutes of them total. So, I mean, I get it, but I would have loved more of those two because they're funny, and it sets the tone for the movie. Like we get the first kill in the opening. Not many kills in this movie either. Which but it goes against type. We'll get into that when we get to the spoilers. Definitely.
Yeah. When we get to the game, we find out that the game talks back to you, and the game starts asking them questions. The whole point of this game is you have to answer, as we find out later on, you have to answer 10 questions to survive this game. And they get through only the first question, where it asks them, name a horror movie where a black character doesn't die. And that's where we get our first big reference of Scream 2, which he mentioned Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett. She tells around, no, they die right the fuck away. Did you watch the movie? Fucking, it's such a great reference and such a good comedy moment right there. What do you guys feel about the references of that and throughout the film?
I think the fact that like they just ignore every Jordan Peele movie and go Scream 2 is like it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to be honest, like I think when it was like announced that Jordan Peele is going to be a director, I almost felt like he would be making these type of movies. So it was quite a surprise that he kind of went in the direction that he did. But like this movie is fantastic, and yeah, there were so many like horror references throughout. And yeah, this was just the beginning of many. Very enjoyable.
And as John alluded to, since I can't answer the question, Sean gets hit with a crossbow to the throat, which is a great fucking sequence, a great fucking kill. And then Morgan is just pulled into darkness, and then we get credits. I think that is a way to open the fucking movie, of just showing quick kill, quick image, and then boom, credits. Which, let's bring it up to spoilers. I think since we're through the credits, let's get into the spoilers of it. So, yeah, after the credits, they see that it is a reunion, and we start meeting the characters along the way. We start with, if I'm not mistaken, we start with Dwayne, Lisa, and Nandi.
Dwayne, Lisa, and Allison.
And Allison, yes.
Because the fact that
Lisa because Nandi's not there yet.
Yeah. Secret. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, Dwayne, Lisa, and Allison are in the car, and they're talking about the weekend. And Dwayne is just he alludes that he hopes that Nandi isn't there, and we start seeing that there's already going to be some friction and we also start noticing that they that at the very least at this point, Lisa and Allison can mentally talk to each other just by looking at each other, which is really funny. It's a really funny way, and they use it very well later on in the movie for sure. What did you guys feel about the car ride between these three?
Yeah, no, I loved that because I personally can connect with that. That's something I like do with a lot of my girlfriends, and just like probably specifically my sister. Like I can have full on conversations just looking at her. So it was fun to actually see that on film, because I think that's definitely like a women thing. Yeah, no, I thought that was a lot of fun, and they definitely like kind of use that throughout the movie in a fun way.
And I mean, I know it's another subgenre of movies, but it actually it actually alludes to the fact that this becomes like a stoner movie too, because they talk that they're going to do a ton of drugs, and they do a ton of drugs in this movie too. So that happens too. If you're into that, put this on your list because this is definitely one of those movies as well.
Which then we get to Shaniqua, who is at a gas station rocking out, and then she goes in the gas station and she starts grabbing wrap snacks, which is fucking awesome. And as she's grabbing them, she ends up running into the clerk, who has basically one eye and is a creepy big white dude that is just staring her down, and she gets kind of freaked out and she bumps into Clifton, which is another character that wasn't supposed to be a part of the friend group, but he's there. And she automatically calls him Carlton, which fucking A. I loved it so much. It's such a great just out of nowhere because the man does look like he could be Carlton when you first look at him. What did you guys feel about this little horror moment that they have with the wrap snacks and then with Carlton itself?
Clifton,
yes.
I don't appreciate them shitting on Android users, but aside from that, good scene setting up these characters. Like, yeah, there's like one of the strengths of this movie is the characters are extremely well developed. Like, there's a lot. I mean, they definitely take the time. Like Dwayne Perkins, who plays Dwayne, took the time to write really strong dialogue that didn't seem forced, really fleshing out all of the main characters. So that was a strong part of the film, I think.
Yeah, I definitely, like, we're gonna get into it, but I was just like, okay, the clerk and this Clifton guy, like, there's something off with them. They're obviously going to be involved. Like, I thought it was very obvious kind of where things were going to go with both of them. Clifton also really gave me Eddie Murphy from Bowfinger vibes.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
Which I really liked. But no, I kind of was just, it felt a little obvious where those characters were going to go. But like John said, I think one of the strongest points of this film is like the ensemble cast. Like, I think all of them are very strong and they all have moments to shine throughout this movie. And so that's something I do like.
Yeah, and with just meeting these two group of characters before we get to the actual cabin, I think sets up the world perfectly what we're getting ourselves into. Because already hitting references, the dialogue back and forth is very strong, and you can feel the friendship between all of them at this point, including, like, you can just tell with Shaniqua that she's already a part of that group just by how she's talking to Clifton and how she's going through trying to get out of that convenience store while dealing with the shit she's dealing with. And then we get to the cabin, where the first thing that happens is that Nandi is now King. Yeah, King is being talked to by Park Ranger White, and is being accused of not supposed to be in. He's not supposed to be there. That's what Park Ranger White is doing. There, he's trying to figure out why. He's basically trying to kick him the fuck out. And they arrive and they show him that they have a list of who's all supposed to be there. And he goes, okay, and he ends up taking off. And then they get inside the cabin, where we get to finally see the cabin in the daylight. And yeah, as John alluded to, this thing is a fucking mansion in the woods. The thing is huge. It's really nice. And they see balloons and they see the Juneteenth banner up. But there's no Morgan and Sean. And they find that there's a text message earlier that's saying that they went out for the day and that they're going to be back later. So it kind of takes off that little plot thing there of going, why wouldn't they ask where they are at this moment? They've already alluded that they are gone for the day and they'll be back later. What did you guys feel about seeing the cabin for the first time in the daylight, getting to see all the friends together for the first time, and getting to meet Park Ranger White?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the park ranger, again, he's somebody who's like, okay, so you're going to be involved with the, when shit goes bad, but I don't know. And he's also one of those guys where I'm like, I feel like I've seen you in something, but I can't remember the movie. Like, he has one of those kind of faces.
DJ Bader, I think he's in everything. He's in like every comedic thing. He's the guy from Office Space. Like, what would you do with $1 million? 2 chicks at the same time. But yeah, but when he showed up, I was like, "Here's your red herring, right? This is your red herring right here." Because the cop is always the racist cop is always the red herring. And we skipped over the part where like Namdi is there with King, and to calm Dwayne down, they just shoot Molly into his mouth, which comes to play later. Everyone's on Molly.
Yeah, lots of drugs.
Which we also get a good conversation between Nandi and King, where Nandi's giving King shit about having a white wife, and then King is fucking with him back, acting like he's pissed off the whole time about it and giving him shit, and then he's just fucking with him the entire time. And you can just tell that the relationship between all of them are there, but then Nandi also alludes to changing and being changed, and that's what King is basically giving him shit about, is you say the same shit over and over again. It's the same thing every time. You're never changing. And he's dating someone new, which we find out is Lisa, who Dwayne already alluded to. Don't get back together with this guy because he's cheated on you in the past, especially in college, and now they are back together, which we find right away because they end up sneaking off together when they're in the middle of drinking and playing spades, and they sneak off together and do what they do. How did you guys feel about the first game that they're playing and getting to see the interaction between all of them for the first time all together, while Dwayne is kind of off on his own, on Molly, and all kind of fucked up a little bit?
Dwayne's dancing, fantastic. When Namdi and Lisa come back, and Shanika tells her that she smells like dick, great. And then Kristen's like, I also smell dick. I laughed very loudly in the theater, and where I was almost alone. So it was good. I can laugh as loud as I want when I'm alone. So it was good. A lot of great jokes in that whole scene. And everybody, like I said, everybody's together. They're all playing spades, and we find spades is like a critical part of the plot, which is I don't know where to go from there, but it is a critical part of the plot.
Yeah, there's a lot of great jokes. Probably Dwayne is my favorite character. I can't remember exactly when this happens, but he at some point near this sequence, he has like this shirt, and on the back it says that bitch or this bitch.
Yeah, that bitch.
He changes his clothes in the laundry. He puts the that bitch like jersey.
Yeah. And I love that jersey. And then also Shanika, her purse, it says like this is a fake Birkin or something. I can't remember exactly the phrasing on it, but I loved I loved that it like said that on her purse, that this is a fake Birkin or something. A lot of little jokes.
And Clifton, like, I was wondering, does anyone have an Android charger? Like, we're not supporting that here.
Yeah, no Android users at the cabin besides Clifton.
Which we also get the little portion that Clifton does not know how to play spades, and he's trying to get them to teach him, and they just refuse to fucking help him at home. And we kind of get like that's just another little thing that they're pushing towards, that he is not really a part of this group, that he's the outsider of this group, that he is a geeky guy of this part, and that something's up with him throughout this whole thing. And you can't really hit what's going on exactly, but you know something's going on with this guy. Which then when the lights go out, when they're playing spades, they end up going to the same room that was locked earlier, that from the beginning of the film was the game room, and the game sign is now on that. So when they open it up, the lights turn back on, and they see the Blackening game. And during this portion, Clifton says a little story before they get to the actual game, where he goes, I like to play the Ouija board game where I summon Gary Coleman, and he didn't like it. It's so quick. It's so fucking stupid. It killed me in the theater. I was dying. But yeah, they when they get to the actual game, they open it up, and they all see that they all have pieces that kind of go with each other, including what we saw earlier with Morgan's earrings. And
Mhm.
what did you guys feel about this board game kind of giving, like, kind of attaching itself to this specific group, that now we kind of know that this board game we for sure is kind of alive in a way and knows who it's playing, who they're playing
Yeah,
with.
yeah. I mean, I mentioned a bunch of movies earlier that this kind of reminded me of, and one I forgot was Saw. Like this gives me like the Saw vibe of like, okay, they're like here for maybe a reason, or like someone's clearly doing this to them, or there's like a mystical element we don't know yet. Because it's like, yeah, they're there for a purpose, since these like pieces are kind of symbolizing them in a way. And they're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I
What's
think
that?
in the trailer, it's not really made clear whether it's like a supernatural board game or it's really just like a Saw collector type movie. And clearly, once this scene happens, you know it's like they're being watched. It's like a surveilled house, so there's no supernatural element. It's they're being spoken to by somebody else through the board game that controls the TV and the locked doors and the lights. They're controlling the entire house. So
Yeah, which we get to, like Melissa alluded to, Saw, right when right when the game tells them to pick a card, which freaks them out again. They end up picking a card, and that's when the TV turns on, and we see that Morgan is tied up to a chair, and the game tells them you have to answer 10 questions, otherwise Morgan will die. But if you guys can get through the 10 questions, I'll let you all go. And these questions all allude to either Black history or movies or TV shows or just pop culture in general. And we start hearing a couple of things, including the one that actually gets them to fuck up, which is from Friends. And tells them to name 5 Black characters from Friends. And it's the game fucking with them because they actually do answer the question before the time runs out, but then it basically says, no, it doesn't matter anyways because we would have been watching this instead.
like the right answer for a group of Black friends is you don't watch Friends.
You don't watch,
and they fucked up by answering the question.
Well, and it was so funny too because all of them were like, well, shit, I never watched it, and then they're like, oh yeah, like Craig Robinson was on it, or I know, yeah, Gabrielle Union was Joey's love interest. Like they just start like they all like start clicking, like, oh, maybe I do actually know this, which is funny.
Which, before we continue, let's talk about the references throughout here, because we got them referencing People Under the Stairs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream 2, the O'Reilly Auto Parts song, which is fucking
oh my god,
great. That thing fucking told me. Friday, Friends, of course, Hunger Games, The Clue, where she grabs the candlestick. What are you, a fucking Clue? What are you grabbing a candlestick? And then they also, the end of Set It Off. Like,
Yes.
Those are the ones that I picked up on. I know that I missed a few there, but the references are just so like wide and so broad, but so like random, but specific to this movie that it actually makes sense of them referencing it. It all comes back in certain aspects. What did you guys feel about the references throughout?
I think the O'Reilly Auto Parts line is like so true. It's like I wrote an essay that the O'Reilly Auto Parts jingle is more relevant to American history than the national anthem. And it's like, holy shit, that is actually correct.
Yeah, no, that was probably my favorite joke in the movie. Yeah. I was like dying, and then I love how they all like sing it, and then they're just like, yeah, that song's a banger or whatever, and like everyone knows that jingle. They really did something right.
And they constantly give Allison crap because her dad's white, but she's the only person that knows the second verse to the Black national anthem.
Yep.
She sings it. It's great.
Which, once they miss that question, Morgan's wig gets pulled off, and then she gets unlocked, and she's able to kick the killer and escape, and that's when the doors open, and they all start running out, and they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and they're trying to get to her, but they're also trying to escape themselves, and they see that all the cars have been hit by the crossbow at this point. All the tires are kind of down, so they can't really use any of the cars. And I love it because then they hear that she's in the basement, and then they start, because half the group is in the one like living room area with the cameras, and then the other group is next to the basement, and they start all narrating what is happening, and they narrate it back to each other to get to the people in the basement to understand what's going on.
That old trope where it's like, like, okay, guys, disclaimer, I'm not trying to sound racist, but like, like they're screaming in the movie theater, like, he's right behind you, he's right behind you, he's right behind you, he's coming up the stairs, he's coming up the stairs. Like that was 100% done on purpose, just so people like me would say that out loud and look racist. So thank you, The Blackening, you succeeded in that.
Melissa, how did you feel about them and then the reference, then the whole narrating part?
Oh, I loved it. It was like the ultimate game of telephone. It was like, he's right behind you. He's right behind you. And then, of course, I like want Morgan to escape, but I kind of didn't really think it was going to happen. But I was hoping. And
it turns out King, who said he was a reformed gangster, is not totally reformed because he's strapped.
Yeah,
he has a gun.
Oh yeah. He
brings the gun out, and they shoot the door, and they tell Morgan to back away, shoot the door, and then the door just opens slightly, and they're calling out her name, and then Clifton just hits it with, maybe try her last name. Fucking hits me again. This man with his fucking little one-liners kills me every time.
Also, like leading up to that point, there's a lot of like sight gags where like doors just kind of open a little bit. Like when Dwayne's in the laundry room and the door opens and he just goes, and he just shuts it. like little things like that are really good too.
Which then we get that Morgan is kind of not there anymore, and the killer starts to try to bust through the basement door, and he ends up hitting King and hits Allison. And
well, he doesn't hit Allison. He hits King.
Yeah, he hits King.
And then when Allison pulls the arrow out, she pulls too hard and stabs herself.
Yeah, and stabs herself.
She stabs herself with the arrow. Some Temper Good versus Evil moments right there.
They're trying to close it, and the killer's not letting them, and he puts his foot in the door, and that's where they take they take it, and they fucking slam his foot. They slam it into his foot. He gets fucked up. They finally able to close it and lock it. And King is all fucked up at this point. He's got multiple arrows in him because he's got the one in his shoulder and then he's got the one in his back. Even though Allison was able to pull out one of them, he still has multiple in him. And they go around the corner and are pulling them out. What did you guys feel about the little fight scene there between the killer and the group?
I mean, this week's weapon compared to last week's with Killer Mermaid, significantly better.
Yeah.
I can do arrows all day, and that was kind of the main weapon of choice of this movie. So I thought it was really effective, and I enjoyed it. And I'm surprised they were able to get it through, I guess, his shoe. But I mean, I guess I don't know, because it seemed like some pretty stealthy shoes that you would like stab through it. But I don't know. It's fine.
I am very much down with killers using one weapon, especially when it's a repeater crossbow. Some You're Next vibes there. I loved it. Yeah, and like they're not exactly. You could tell they're not like pros, the killers, because they miss most of their shots.
Yeah. Which then they get back to the game room, and the game is now telling them to choose someone to sacrifice, and they all start going around. And like they talk about different things of why they shouldn't be chosen or why they should be chosen, and then you get to Clifton, who gets a little get out moment where he goes, "I voted for Trump twice," and that just turns everyone going, "Okay, fuck this guy. He's the one being sacrificed." So he gets fucked yet again in this movie. And what did you guys feel about the little moment of them all in the game room trying to figure out who to choose to sacrifice?
Oh, it was great. It was very funny. To me, it wasn't surprising again that it was going to be Clifton, just because like he's been the outsider of this group the whole time. It's kind of, I think, even just like as an audience member, we're like, why is this guy here? What he's obviously up to something with this whole thing with the game, because there's just something off about him, and he's not really supposed to be here. I think. Shanique was just being nice, like, yeah, you can come join us or whatever. Or I guess he implies that he got invited, but she was kind of confused at the time. Yeah,
invited by Morgan.
The best part is before they pick Clifton, like the reasoning they give for picking everybody else is just fantastic. I won't spoil this part because there's a lot of stuff that just you need to see it. That whole conversation, as far as even furthering the character development, is good because it tells like, what each person's like the best part of their character, I guess, or the blackest part of each person's character is.
Yeah.
And like why they would be the blackest of the group, which is it's interesting.
And right before Clifton has to go outside, he has another little moment where he just slaps King in the face while he's fucking walking out. It's just so quick and so random. And then he gets outside and they watch him through the little TV, and he ends up getting hit by an arrow pretty fucking quickly and is dragged away. And during this part that happens, Nandi he says, "Do not fuck that. I'm gonna go get him." And that's when they find the door is locked, and that's when all that happens, and he gets dragged away. And then that's when they say fuck it, and they throw the game on the floor and break it. And that's when the killer finally gets on the actual TV and says that the game has turned into sudden death. Now it's all they have to do is survive, and he's gonna give them 3 minutes as a head start. What did you guys feel about them destroying the game, and now that you know that the game has been controlled by these guys the entire time, and the killer is now after them, and he's giving them no choice at this point. They have to run.
I mean, I do think it's interesting. I think it's kind of generous of the killer because I feel like the whole time, he's like, play the game or you die. And if you don't play, I'm going to kill you anyways. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to like get a head start. I just thought that was kind of interesting versus just like, I don't know, just going out and killing them all with, his arrows or whatever. And soon we find out that, there's maybe more than one guy. So
like most good horror movies now.
Yeah.
There's a whole, like, they really dive deep into the whole concept of like, when they finally choose to split up, everyone's like, "Oh, fuck, we're gonna split up." And like, there's a moment like where they split up, and like fine, we're gonna split up, and like they make a big deal about it, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's when it gets really interesting because you get Dwayne, Lisa, and Nandi to go together, and Allison, Shanika, and King to go together, which I think are two of the interesting type of groups there, because there's a lot of personality in both groups, and you have the kind of strong hero types, and then you have the little chicken types that are put together and have to kind of coincide with each other. And the first thing that Dwayne, Nandi, and Lisa do is they go, we got to go find Morgan, so let's go to the fucking basement, while the other 3 run off into the woods and are trying to get out of there. And
we missed a very important plot point. So King is, he's always been shot with 2 arrows. He's hurt. So he asks for painkillers. So Shanika has drugs in her purse, and she just starts giving out painkillers. But the painkillers are ADHD medication.
Yes.
And like everyone's now supremely fucked up.
Including Allison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really gets hit hard with the medicine. And as they're going out, let's start with Allison, King, and Shanika going into the woods. And Allison, like halfway through the woods, Allison is completely fucked up, where she's basically telling them, "You guys just go, and I'll stay." And they have a little moment where she goes, "I'm just gonna sit down." And he goes, "You're wearing the Rosa Parks shirt. You got to keep going." She goes, "But she did sit down, though." That's
what would Rosa Parks do? I think she would do this.
Oh, I love that.
And they end up leaving her, and it's just King and Shanika going to the river or the lake, where Shanika's just swimming across a lake. And
of course, they make a big deal that she can swim. Another joke. and King has to climb the tree. And there's so many little tiny like beats that are just like they do it perfectly.
Which then the killer shows up, to start shooting arrows at Shanique in the water. She goes, I knew you're not shooting arrows at me. And then King just fucking jumps out of the tree at him and knocks him down. What did you guys feel about this group and their journey to the lake and everything that transpires?
Great scene.
Yeah.
Go, Melissa.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna. I mean, I love that when Allison kind of becomes like Wolverine. Like she has like I don't even know what she has in her.
They're the broken arrows. Like she has the pieces of the arrows between her fingers.
And she just fucking like turns into a ninja, and like it's fucking awesome. and this killer like sucks at fighting. Like this is definitely where highlight spot where like
she puts like the prey like war paint on her face. Yeah, she beats the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, she fucks that dude up completely.
And the fact that she kills him and like, is he dead? Like, yeah, he's fucking dead. Like, there's nobody comes back. They just get when the bad guys die, they die in this movie. There's no two ways about it.
Which then they pull off the mask and they realize that it's a dude from the convenience store, and the one-eyed man from the convenience store, and he's all fucked up. And then we cut back to the other group, back to Dwayne, Nadine, and Lisa, who are now in the basement. And as they're in the basement, they... Oh, wait, no. They get to the car first. They try to go to the basement, and they can't find her, so they go to the car where they run into Park Ranger White, who shows up. And at this point, you kind of go, okay, either the man is in on it or he is going to get fucking killed right away.
Another great scene where he's like, if I was invited to the cookout, I would not go because my presence, like it is a black space, and my presence there would make it a non-black space. So I would therefore ruin the cookout. And Lisa's like, that's a great answer.
Which he puts him in the car, and that's where they find the mask. And he goes off to go, like, he doesn't even say what he's doing. He just goes off, and they find the mask, and they think that it's him, that they think that he's the killer, and they don't really know what to do. They don't know if they should get out of the car or they should stay in the car. Be safe. What do you guys feel about this sequence and what transpires with the arrows being shot at the car?
Yeah, I mean, I still like firmly thought he was a red herring at this point, but it's still kind of, my mind was like, okay, well, we'll see. And then this scene confirms it, but then the mask was kind of a twist. He's like, I found it in the woods, that's why I came to see you guys. And then it's like, okay, convenient, but then he gets killed, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like one of those times where it's like a beat by beat red herring reveal, and like it's obviously it is what it is, but it's not like I wasn't insulted by it as a horror fan. It was done well. There's some movies where they do it and it's like, this is the fucking part where this happens, and I didn't feel that way at all in the Blackening, so that's good.
Which then we get to them escaping from the car, and Dwayne says, just leave me, just go. And then they leave.
He gets pinned down. He's like, just go. Yeah. And they leave him.
And when they leave him, he goes, I didn't actually fucking mean it. What the hell? And then that's when Nandi and Lisa go and hide in the vent. And as the killer is kind of stalking them, trying to find them in the cabin, he hears music and he goes down. And that's when Dwayne shows up right next to the vent going, I told you guys not to fuck. Like, you guys fucking left me. And he goes, let me up there. And then it's just the three of them in this tiny ass vent. Just stuck there.
Yeah, Dwayne showing up was like a really good jump scare, even though it was not like the killer. It was like, it was just him popping up in front of the vent, like, you can't believe you guys left me. Really good jump scare. And we find out that, like, they alluded to it before that the killers are using like a cell phone jamming device.
Yeah, right? Signal blocker thing. Yeah.
So, the genius thing is the killer just turns it off, and then all their Twitter notifications, when they say like, oh man, like Doja Cat retweeted me or something, I forget what he said, and like they're in the vent making a ton of noise, and then the arrows start coming through the vent.
Melissa, what did you feel about this scene?
Yeah, no, it was great. And then, I mean, I think at this point, just they talk about it a little bit later, but I think kind of the animosity that's kind of between these three is starting to dissipate because it's like they're in this situation together. But no, I mean, Dwayne, again, was probably my favorite character. So like, I think a lot of his comedic beats just really worked for me. And it was a good jump scare, but a funny one at it as well.
Which we get that funny moment of Dwayne throwing up on the killer, tripping and falling down the fucking stairs.
And he did reference that quite a few times. He's like, when I get really nervous, I throw up, and it's like, okay. I was like waiting for it to happen, which I don't like throw up in movies, so I'm like, okay, when is it coming? It comes.
Through the vent, hits him through the vent and coats him, and he's done.
And as he rolls down the stairs, Shanika hits him with a crossbow, and then Lisa beats the ever-loving shit out of him, beats him to death with the fucking candlestick. Which motherfucker told me, gave me shit about using the candlestick as a weapon? Like, she fucking destroys this dude with the fucking candlestick. And as they're all apologizing to each other, they finally look at the wallet, because they can't tell by the face anymore who this man is. They find out that it is a twin. That it's a twin from the convenience store. That they are the Cooper twins, and they have been paid to kill them. They see a little list and they see amount of money, which they are very offended by the amount of money that they are being accosted for. And that's when they decide to go, let's just go find Morgan and let's get the fuck out of here. So they go down to the basement to go find Morgan, and they're still hoping that Sean is still alive, but at this point we all know fucking Sean is dead.
Well, they show them the picture of Sean dead.
Yeah, but they still looking, like, they still go, yeah, we gotta go find Sean as well. Like, they're thinking this man is still fucking alive after what happened. And when they get down there, they see Clifton hunched over the table. And
Ranger White,
yes. And when King and Allison stay upstairs, they're kind of all fucked up. Allison is still fucked up on that all, and King is just fucked up from the arrows and all the other shit that's happened to him throughout the night. So they both stay upstairs, and as the rest are looking around, that's when they see the TV turn on again, and they see that a dude is throwing people down the well, and it turns out to be Clifton, and Clifton just gets up and says that he has explosives attached to him, and if they move, he's gonna fucking use it. And that's when we find out that Clifton is a part of this. And basically what happened with Clifton is that he got drunk during the party of Juneteenth because they were fucking with him, and he's being made fun of and shit like that, and he decides to drive home and ends up killing a woman, and he goes to prison for only 4 years for 4 years for manslaughter.
The important thing is they made fun of him mercilessly because he messed up playing spades.
Yeah,
that's the whole story.
Melissa and John, how did you both feel about the sequence of events and finding out that Clifton is kind of the mastermind behind this whole thing?
This is the part of the movie I think is by far the weakest. This is like kind of the problem I have with the movie is that kind of the third act in kind of Clifton's reveal. I just feel like the validity and motivation behind his character is really silly. Like it didn't work for me. I think if this movie really stuck the landing with like, I don't know, just something, I don't know what it would be, but necessarily, but like it just, him being kind of the mastermind behind all this. And when you start really thinking about all the different plot points and just things about this, I feel like things really start falling apart. But it's, again, not one of those kind of movies to really do that with. Just like, it's very much like a popcorn movie, just enjoy the ride. But I did not like this reveal, and I didn't like him as the killer. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, he's the one who drove. Like, that was his choice, that was his decision, and like the unfortunate consequence that he accidentally killed somebody. Like, how is that this group's fault? Like, I don't know. It didn't really work for me.
Why would you go through all this trouble for that? It's weird. Yeah, I agree with everything Melissa said. Like, that was the one thing I was like, eh. Like, it would have even been better if like the whole Clifton character was fake, and dropped the whole bullshit. It was like a regular dude.
Yeah.
Might have made it stronger,
Yeah.
but whatever. It's a comedy, so I could forgive it. But yeah, Melissa's 100% right. The weakest part of the movie is this particular reveal. It's fine though.
Yeah, I was like hoping kind of like a doofy thing. Like I thought like he'd be
Right.
like that's kind of what I was hoping, to be honest. I was like, you kind of suck. So like I kind of get why they bullied you. Like, I don't know. Like it just didn't work.
And you know, the funny thing is, like earlier on in the movie when they're arming themselves, like they're getting all kinds of weapons, and one person tries to offer chili powder to the person, like they blow it off, but they defeat him with the chili powder.
With chili powder, yeah. Which, yeah, I agree with both of you that this is definitely the weakest part of the movie is his motivations behind this. And yeah, I thought he was going to drop the entire act and just be a different guy completely than he was acting like. But, you know, we got what we got. And yeah, how they are able to do this is that he makes Lisa play the game of who is the blackest is going to die. And Lisa chooses herself, which is kind of fucking with him. And that's when they all start mind talking with each other, including Dwayne and Nadine, which is fucking hilarious. Going, are we actually doing this? Yeah, we're doing it.
Clifton can hear him.
Clifton the whole time you fucking hear him the whole time.
You just lost the element of surprise. That's clever. I mean that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Nandi is shot with crossbow. Dwayne attacks Clifton, and Shanika shoots Clifton, and that's when they throw the chili powder in his face, and Dwayne just fucking kicks his ass down the well.
See, a great front kick. A great front kick solves every movie.
Oh yeah,
I've been saying it for weeks.
And yeah, it pretty much ends with them outside, and they have a little credits thing as they go along where they change clothes, and the fire trucks and police end up showing up. What did you guys feel about the ending of
Well,
this movie?
no, they're debating that they can't call the police.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all this stuff happened. They're not going to call the police. So they decide to call the fire department instead. And Dwayne changes his clothes, you know, because he wants to look good when the firemen show up. And then they just get hit with the fire hose. That's the big the final joke. Is like, they get hit with the fire hose. I was like, all right, that's cool. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, it was so great. And it was fun to have kind of a little credit kind of thing. You don't usually see that these days.
I stayed to the end, guys. You know, the real spoilers, there's nothing at the end of the credits. Don't sit through the credits unless you want to sit through the credits. I sit through the credits for you, so you don't have to.
Now, before we get to the actual ratings of this movie, what did you guys want to bring up? Anything that we haven't touched upon that you feel should be brought up?
I just have two little things that were about scenes earlier that we talked about, just to add on. I loved when they killed the first, I don't know, hillbilly guy or whatever. I don't remember their names. Anyways, yeah, the Cooper twins. There was like an inhaler in his pocket. They're like, oh, that's why he's breathing like that. I really loved that. And then the sequence when Lisa's just brutally murdering the other one with the candlestick. I love that. Like afterwards, they're both like Dwayne and Namni. They're both like scared of her. They're kind of like, like oh shit. Like,
you got some guts on your face. Yeah, and like the one thing I'll say about the movie is overall, like surprisingly low body count for a slasher movie. But I think it's just to drive home the fact that like all these characters need to survive, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are good points to bring up there. Like two little fun scenes there to bring up that we didn't touch upon. Yeah, let's get right into it for our VHS tapes. Half of VHS, so 5. Let's go to John first. John, what did you?
This is an extremely fun movie. Like there's flaws, sure, but I can overlook them. I'm not going to grade this movie like horribly. Like it's a 4 out of 5. It's really, really funny. It's really, really clever. The writing is really, really good. The characters are really good. There's clearly some plot holes or some bad choices, but it doesn't detract from how fun this movie is. Go see it. If you can still catch it in theaters, watch it in theaters. Definitely when it comes out on demand, watch it. bring friends, have a great time. It's for you. It's for everybody. Watch the movie.
I like it. And then I guess I will go next. I had a blast with this movie. I loved all the references. I loved the kills that did happen, the small kills that did happen. I love those. I love the comedic bits throughout the entire movie. I give it 4.5. It could go down on the next watch because of the little plot things that we've talked about earlier, but we'll see from there. I absolutely loved the first watch of this, and I was in the theater alone, so that made the experience even better because I got to experience this thing with no talking, with nobody on the phones and shit like that throughout it. It made it for a great time. Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, I guess I'll be a little bit more critical. Sorry. I'm gonna give it 3.5 videotapes. Because to me, at the beginning, I know you both had said like it's a horror. I kind of don't really think it's really a horror movie. I mean, like kind of, not really. I think this is more of a full-blown comedy with some horror elements to it. And with that being said, I'm not a big comedy person, but this one really did work for me for the most part. Like I thought it was really well written. I loved the ensemble cast, and I think this is a great movie to go out on a date night or a group of friends or by yourself. Like it is a good time, and I would recommend going to see it. But just some of the plot stuff, and I'm not that big of a comedy person. I'll give it 3.5.
Fair enough. Which brings us to the next movie, Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood. Chew. Or be chewed.
Hey man, I don't need to be hearing this, man.
John, being a resident anthology man, would you like to take over the plot for this movie?
Sure. Tales from the Hood is a anthology movie. Basically, the wraparound story is there's 3 drug dealers or 3 gangsters, Stack, Ball, Bulldog. They find out that at Mr. Sims' funeral home, he found a bunch of drugs that obviously belongs to their gang. So they're going there to retrieve the drugs and give him money for the drugs. But as they're walking through the funeral home to where the drugs are, every funeral, like every wake room, every body has a story. Mr. Sims tells them stories. They get more and more agitated as they get deeper and deeper into the funeral home, and then the movie ends. But that's the whole movie. It's just four stories, 5 counting the wraparound story, and they're all really. There's the first Tales from the Hood, at least. There's 2 sequels after this, but the first Tales from the Hood, Rusty Cundiff and his team really made an effort to like really have every story have like a political message and like tie into real issues facing the Black community. So Tales from the Hood was actually pretty important and iconic for a movie that really is not as popular as it should be. All the stories tie in to like real world problems that were happening at the very beginning of the 21st century. So watch it for more than one reason, I say.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. This movie has messages throughout each of the stories, and they're each told very well, and they give out the right messages of what they're trying to say throughout. Melissa, how about you? What did you think overall of this movie?
Yeah, this movie's the shit. But seriously, like I loved this like so much. Like I think this is gonna go up on rewatches for me, like 100%. This was a great first time watch, and I just loved. I know we'll get into it, but like just the effects and then just the overall like messaging for each of the segments, I thought was excellent. Really, really well done.
Let's get right into it with the beginning of this movie, which John kind of went over, which is Stack, Ball, and Bulldog are going to the funeral home to find their shit.
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 And they run into Sims, who's a funeral director. And he man, I love that man so much. Clarence is fucking
Clarence
amazing.
Williams III makes this movie. He's really not in it a ton because he's just in the interim segments. But Clarence Williams III as Mr. Sims is fantastic, over the top in the best way. He says the shit like probably 20 times, and every time it's a home run. Every single
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I feel like the over the topness and the comedic kind of vibe he gives off just really works. But he's also very creepy and like kind of sinister too. Like his whole vibe really, really works. And yeah, I wish we got to see more of him, but regardless, like the little time that we do get, I think he nails it.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. which we get to the first. Sims brings them up to an open coffin, and he wants to tell them a story about Clarence, which we get to the first little short here, which is Clarence is a cop, and during one of the nights he's with his partner, they show up where a guy named Morehouse is being beaten by a group of cops, including Clarence's partner, and Clarence is kind of told to just go back to the car and look up the car to see who it actually is, to just give them a reason to beat the shit out of this guy. And he wants to report him, but decides not to. And they tell him, we're just going to take him. We will take him to the hospital. We'll get him help and stuff like that. But they end up taking him away and end up killing him by putting him in the car, putting him through full of drugs, pumping him through full of drugs, and then just dumping him into the river with his car. What did you guys feel of the opening of this little sequence of Clarence and Morehouse being beaten to death?
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal for sure. And I mean, the unfortunate truth, it's very, I would say topical and kind of hits home with all the stuff that's going on in the world today. So it's kind of timeless in that way. But no, I thought it was really, really effective. And I something that impressed me about this movie, I think going into it, I thought, oh, it's could maybe be a little silly or what have you. But no, like, I think the balance of kind of, because there's comedic moments throughout, but like, I think there's a good balance of like a serious tone and kind of comedic beats. But I'd say this first one is more on the serious side of things, I would say, for the most part.
Yeah, there's definitely like some schlocky kind of kills, and it's fine because really, a beat that I'll just say is the guy that plays Martin Ezekiel Morehouse, Tom Wright, is the same guy that plays the hitchhiker in The Third Story and Creepshow 2. And
that's right.
You actually get a lot of the same beats like later on when he's like dead, and he's hanging on the car and everything. So it's like the same character for like a little bit piece of the movie. But I was happy to see him in another anthology doing the same shit, playing the same kind of character. So that was cool. But yeah, it's like I said, there are comedic beats, but it's a very serious topic, like police brutality and the thin blue line and the code, and like, cops will do shit and cover up for each other. But then you have the other cop who like wants to speak out, and they wind up like, he gets thrown off the force. And yeah, it's like, it's real. Like that's like a real thing that happened. So they tackled a real issue, and they did it in a creative, funny horror way. So it's good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you both said. I think the message of police brutality and everything with that is very real and very topical even today. Like, it still works for today. Watching this movie, you can still feel everything that is happening here. And yeah, it cuts to a year later where Clarence is no longer a cop, and he's drinking a lot and stuff like that. It's been exactly a year later, and he has the voice of Morehouse in him telling him to bring them to him. So he ends up going to the cemetery and having them all meet him at the cemetery, to where he goes, let's pay our respects to Morehouse, who you all killed, and I watched as you guys did it. And this comes up to the first like actual, I guess you would say, comedic moment of this movie, is where one of the cops is pissing on the grave, and fucking Morehouse hand comes from the fucking bottom of the grave and grabs him and just fucking pulls him into the fucking grave, and then it fucking just explodes. And he ends up being on the top of the fucking gravestone. What did you guys feel about the first kill?
I want to just make a note, like all three of the cops are like really fantastic character actors who you'll recognize. Like you have Dwayne Whitaker, who played Maynard in Pulp Fiction. He's one of the cops. Michael Massey, who's in like everything, and Wings Hauser. So the fact that they got these three like really good character actors to play like scumbag cops, I think the casting was fantastic for the scene. I buy it. Like I honestly, like, there's a theme throughout the movie, this and then one of the later segments, just like how they got these guys to be like so racist on camera is a feat. And the fact that they were like comfortable being this racist on camera and just capturing like how real it is like, you don't see it like that, really. Especially in a movie of this tone, you don't see that.
Yeah, no, I thought Yeah, I thought the first kill was great, and I really like kind of the zombie makeup and the zombie look of the character. I thought it looks really awesome.
Yeah, the makeup is fucking fantastic in this entire movie, in this sequence especially. And after he takes out the first cop's heart, he jumps on the car as they're driving away, which John alluded to being from another anthology, Creepshow 2. He jumps on the car and is hanging off the fucking car as they are trying to drive away. And the car crashes, and he ends up pulling one of the cops' heads off from the inside of the car to the top of the car, which is fucking a great fucking effect and great sequence. And the last, probably most racist of the cops is the one that's left, and he was the one that kind of started this whole fucking thing. The cop car blows up by him shooting it, and he thinks that he has taken out Morehouse, and Morehouse ends up walking through. He ends up turning around and seeing the mural of Morehouse, and the big ass mural on the wall of Morehouse, and he ends up going to like the little homeless camp that's set up down the alleyway. And as that is happening, he ends up being crucified with a bunch of needles, that the same type of needles that were put into Morehouse at the beginning of the movie. And as he is being crucified, he ends up becoming part of the mural, which I think is a great fucking effect of him just being splattered on there. And what did you guys feel about the last portion of this short, where the two cops are brutally murdered by Morehouse in a great ways, and then Clarence ends up in a mental hospital at the end of that movie?
Yeah, no, I mean the cop that kind of like turns into the mural, like that was so cool and unexpected. Like I was I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting that, and I thought that was really cool. That like just, again, the effects of it, like, and pretty brutal, yeah, to get crucified with heroin needles and then turn into like, I think he kind of like, if I'm remembering right, it's like kind of practical effects. He kind of like melts, and then it kind of turns into like chalk or whatever.
He like the last needle goes in his mouth, and then he like melts into like paint, and then he reforms as a picture of himself.
That was just really, really creative and really cool. Definitely one of my favorite kind of moments in this movie.
John, how about you?
And the fact that like even though Clarence, did what Morehouse said, like he still punishes him because he didn't save him when he could. Like where he's like, "Where were you, brother, when I needed you?" And the punishment is he's framed for the murders, and he gets put away in like an insane asylum for life. And then you find he's dead. Like he's the body they see in the funeral home. So obviously he died in the institution. So he still gets punished because he didn't do the right thing. He did the right thing too late. So again.
Which then we cut back to the funeral home where the three are they're kind of dealing with it. They're kind of already getting irritated with Sims because they don't want to hear these fucking stories. And Sims just takes them into another body where he calls it the classic case of what is and isn't real. And we cut into the story of Walter, which is a young boy who is in his bed in the middle of the night as a monster is coming through his door. And I think what's cool about showing the monster through this little short is that they show little bit by little bit, like they show the hand of the monster come across the door, which I think is pretty cool. And how he's just he's not only afraid of the dark, but he's afraid of what happens when the monster comes to him at night. Because in the morning when he's going to class, he has a black eye. And we get to meet the teacher, and we see that it's his first day at this school dealing with this, and he's bullied right away by a bunch of kids. And the teacher kind of formed a bond with him through that. What did you guys feel about the opening of this short?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great, and I think the teacher's the director of the film. Which was cool. No, I we'll get into it, but this segment was probably my favorite, just because I think it hits home a little bit in a way. But I think it was really like effective and well done. But yeah, no, I thought the intro was great. This is what I was hoping from the Boogeyman a few weeks ago, something like this.
I think the strongest part of this segment is like I'm a little older than you guys, but when I was growing up, and Living Color was a huge sketch comedy show, and I had only known David Alan Grier as like a comedic actor. To see him play like a bastard, abusive stepfather is like I'm blown away then, blown away now. Like that David Alan Grier, like they got that performance out of him because that's crazy.
Yeah, like that's just why it is like Melissa, my favorite segment of this movie is because David Alan Grier, because that man just shows up and he fucking brings it this movie. Yeah. And we cut to the next couple nights where the monster keeps coming back again and again, and we get little glimpses of more of the monster and how he is like bruising his arm and stuff like that. And there's more stuff that's going on. And Walter ends up drawing him as a monster, as an actual monster. And that's when the teacher, he just goes, you know what, maybe I should go to their house. And before that happens, he does draw another picture of the bully. And he decides to crumple the picture of the bully up. And that's when we hear blood-curdling screams from outside, and it just cuts to the bully. His arms and legs have been broken. So now we see that Walter kind of has some power with his drawings. What did you guys feel about this section?
I was like, oh shit.
Well, you can kind of see where the story is going from here.
Yeah.
But like, you know, how they get there, you know, the journey is worth it.
Which, yeah, then we get the teacher showing up to the house, and he's telling them he's telling Walter's mom about the bruises, and you can tell the mom doesn't really like, she knows what's happening and she doesn't really want to acknowledge it. Because she knows the consequence of acknowledging it, and she doesn't want to get into it. She doesn't want to deal with it because of what's happening. So she's trying to get him out the door as quickly as fucking possible. And that's when David Alan Grier shows up, and teacher right away fucking knows what's happening. Right when David Alan Grier shows up, he knows that this is a man that's beating Walter. So he shows him the picture of the monster, and he's asking him about it. And he goes, "What did you think of it?" And David Alan Grier basically kicks him right the fuck out the house right away. And that's when David Alan Grier starts beating the shit out of the mom and Walter. And what did you guys feel about this part of the movie up until we get to the end here?
Yeah, I mean, I also only really know David Alan Grier from In Living Color and Jumanji. Like those are like two things. Is what I know him from. So it was really interesting, like seeing him, you know, in this more like kind of serious role. But I thought he did really, really well. I thought he was really sinister, and he was a monster. And it also was upsetting to watch for sure. You know, a child and a woman kind of getting beat, but again, I thought it was done very well, like very effective.
Like, yeah, it's another big issue that they're tackling, like, you know, domestic violence, like, you know, single motherhood, domestic violence, the whole thing, like, you know, children being brought up in like broken homes. And yeah, like David Alan Grier in Living Color, Chocolate News, Amazon Woman on the Moon, and then all of a sudden he's like kicking the shit out of women and children. And you're like, wow. And then go ahead, Mike, take us home.
Oh yeah. So then the teacher comes back in to try to help, and David Alan Grier just beats the shit out of this dude too. Like he's kicking the shit out of everyone, and then Walter finally is able to grab the picture, and he starts folding. First he folds the arm, and it takes out his arm, and then he folds the leg, and it takes out his leg, and then he starts crushing it. And this is another cool like makeup effect that they do, is that David Alan Grier just becomes a puddle of fucking broken bones, and he's still talking shit as he is dying. He's still talking shit, and then he just cuts back to the funeral home where they
burn him.
Oh yes, they burn him. Yeah, he tells Walter to burn him to give him that kind of a leave. He goes, "I want you to do it." And that's
when you could see inside the coffin, it's like the twisted, like broken pile of bones, and it's all just like black bones. And then the guy's like, "Oh shit!" And then they close the coffin.
Melissa, what did you think about the reveal of the at the funeral home of the bones?
Wait, what?
Of the bones of David Alan Grier's bones, and how you get the small reveal.
I don't know if to be honest, I don't know if I remember it at the funeral home, but I was going to talk about the scene where, yeah, he's all kind of crumpled up. Like I thought those effects were really well done. And I think for Walter's character, that was probably very satisfying, to like confront his abuser and like, I guess, end his abuser. It's probably pretty intense, but, no, again, I thought the practical effects and just the effects of this whole sequence was really cool. And yeah, sorry, I don't remember the bones at the funeral home part.
It's a very quick shot.
Yeah, it's a quick shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. And then since we're back at the funeral home, again, the three are kind of getting irritated again throughout all these stories. And right away, Sims grabs the doll. And,
well, no, it's actually when they slam the coffin shut because they look so grotesque, that makes the doll fall. And
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. He ends up grabbing it, and Sims talks about how it's a way station for lost souls and how souls can be put in these dolls, and that he found it in a house in the South. And that's when we cut to Duke going over his campaign video at this southern plantation that he's not supposed, like, that the group outside definitely does not want him to be owning or being around at all. And he definitely does not give a flying fuck that he is there. He does not care at all. And it's just the typical Southern racist that you would know, a political Southern racist that has his what would it be, his campaign manager? It's
like his campaign advisor, yeah.
His campaign advisor from Oz. I recognize him right away from Oz, Rhodey. And they are trying to deal with the fact that they have protesters outside and that they are trying to go through their little videos as they're doing it. And the first section of the story is that they are, he talks about the guy outside is talking about how the original owner of the plantation killed many of the slaves as they tried to walk away, and that this old voodoo woman had transferred all the souls into these dolls that no one was able to find, and now Duke has searched the house for them because he thinks they'd be worth a lot of money, but he hasn't been able to discover them. How did you guys feel about the opening to this segment?
This is another like huge topic that's like still going on today, like how like the remnants of racism, like, and how like white people in general just like it's just a fucking house or it's just a fucking statue, like who cares? And like black people are like, no, like this needs to be like eradicated. Like everything here, like this history is like hurtful, it's damaging to the community, and it's just like, you know, the ignorance of like Corbin Burnson playing this horrible, like God, like another person who like just commits to this role, like playing this horrible racist who just doesn't give a shit that he's like living in like this gigantic symbol of like a mass murder of black slaves. You know, it's like, so, and that still goes on today. Like there's still people fighting like, why you gotta take my Robert E. Lee statue? You know, it still goes on today.
Yeah, this is definitely another one that feels very like topical, feels very like kind of similar to things that we see today. But no, I thought the opening was good, and I kind of knew where this one was going as well, but I was excited for that journey. I will say when they're like videotaping around the house, I was like, all right, who's gonna fall? Someone's gonna fall. Like something bad's gonna happen.
Which, as we see, Rhodey's the one to trip and fall down the stairs. As it's revealed later on when Duke is looking at the video, it is the doll that Sims was holding. As we see that the doll was underneath the house as they were first talking, and now it is now following Duke around, trying to kill him and trying to stop him. And that's when after Rhodey dies, they go to a funeral. They go to his funeral, and as he is driving home, they find the doll in the car, and he ends up chucking it outside, and he thinks that's the end of it. And that's when he sees on the video that the doll was the one that actually tripped Rhodey and made him fall and break his neck. And as that's going on, he goes to the mural of the voodoo lady and all the dolls, and he sees that one of the dolls is missing from the mural. And that's when he starts kind of freaking out, and he does like a little chase scene where he's trying to find the doll while using a shotgun, He used a double barrel shotgun. We end up getting the doll. He puts him up against a dartboard and just fucking blows the doll's face half apart and part of his body apart, fucks it up. And as he goes back, he sees that more dolls are missing from the mural. What did you guys feel about this sequence of the kill the doll and then more dolls are coming out of the mural?
I mean, so this is like one thing that bothered me, but it's like it's not that big a deal. But it's just like I think like his campaign manager is like a friend, but maybe this just reinforces how shitty of a person he is. But like I think it's weird to me that like, okay, your friend just died. Okay, let me watch the video where he died. Like that, like as a human, I would not like watch that video. Like I would want nothing to do with it. So I thought that was like weird, but at the same time, like, yeah, I guess it maybe reinforces.
I got the impression they weren't really friends because Rhodey's clearly also black. So like, I think he really didn't give a shit that he died.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I can't remember. I think it was when he dropped the doll from the car. There's like a sequence of like a POV shot of the doll. That was like a little unrealistic, but I still really liked it because like when you see these dolls, I mean, I don't know how tall they are, but they're pretty darn small. Yeah. And this POV shot made it seem like this doll was like really jumping and like a lot bigger. But again, it still was a lot of fun with the effects of the doll.
Like the establishing POV shot of like a small like creature like critters and all those things. Like I love that shot. Whether there's like going through. Yeah. Always good.
And once the dolls start coming out from the mural, and you just see that shot of him turning around, and every single one of them is just staring at him, and the original doll is just all fucked up, but still staring at him. And he tells them all to just go jumping on him, and they eat him alive. They fucking chomp him to bit and just eat him alive. And as that is happening, you just see the voodoo lady come from the mural, and she's just sitting in a rocking chair, just watching as they're eating him alive. And then
that's the director's mom.
Oh, that's the director's mom? Oh, that is awesome. That's an awesome fucking fact right there. I like that. Yeah. What did you guys feel about the ending of this, of him being eaten alive?
He got what he deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was very satisfying, and I thought the effects were a lot of fun and great, and yeah, it's pretty brutal to watch. And man, those little dolls, but man, they're vicious, and I loved it.
So then we cut back to the funeral home, and at this point, the three are just they're just done. They just want to get their shit, and they want to get the fuck out of here.
Oh, yes, your shit. Yes.
And that's when he decides to bring them to a body that they actually recognize. And it cuts to a guy, Jerome, is driving around, and he sees a guy that has stolen something from him. So he turns around to follow him back to a house where he ends up shooting him. And then three guys that we can't really see the faces of come out of the house and end up shooting him. And as he's lying in a pool of blood, cops show up and kill the three unknown guys, three gang guys. And as he is spitting up blood, he is brought back to a jail cell where he is offered a deal to get behavioral modification, and after that he'll be released. What did you guys feel about the opening of this?
I liked it better when it was a Clockwork Orange, but it's still good. No, this is a good scene too. I'm just kidding.
No, it's funny that you say that. That's like the same comment I had. I was like, this very, very much feels like Clockwork Orange kind of vibes. No, I thought it was pretty intense. I was like, okay, where are we going with this one? Because so far I was like, okay, I like all the sequences so far. I was like, is this one gonna get? I wasn't really sure what direction it was gonna go in. But I like when they kind of have him like on the table and like putting all these tubes and whatnot in his body. Yeah, I was nervous for him. I was like, all right, what's gonna happen?
I would say, like, out of all the social issues that are tackled in Tales from the Hood, like this probably goes the deepest, because the conversation that Crazy K has with the neo-Nazi, where he's like, how are we so different? Like, I kill black people, you kill black people, like you do my job for me. Like, I'm sure like that, like, it's probably, people don't even think about that. Like, it's not something that's ever said. Yeah. And so I think this is, like, out of all the segments, probably goes the deepest philosophically about like human relations. But honestly, even though it goes the deepest, I think it's the weakest segment, to be honest, too. But it definitely has like, the most deep message out of all of them.
He's also a pretty quick segment as well.
Yeah, it's quick.
The other ones. Go ahead,
and also just like I was just gonna say, also like the images that we kind of see like through his Clockwork Orange situation, like they're intense to watch, and it's kind of disturbing images because you can tell they're real life images that are kind of being used. But it's very effective. But I don't know if this one's the strongest segment, but it does have kind of a lot of social commentary for sure in this one.
Yeah, which during the images part, I like how it cuts to images of himself doing the stuff that he has seen, like the neo-Nazi and other stuff. He's starting to see memories of the shots that were rang out, while he's also seeing all the KKK member things, and then of other people dying and being murdered. And then they put him in a sensory deprivation chamber, and that's when he sees everybody that he's killed. And he clearly does not give a fuck that he's done all this. He ends up taking one of them hostage, and the lady doctor is just telling him, hey, you still have a shot here. If you just stop what you're doing and just change how you are, you can still have a shot at this. And he's saying, I don't give a fuck. And that's all he keeps saying is, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck, until everything just goes away. And it just cuts back to him out on the pavement, bloodied. And the three members end up blowing him away. And you find out this was basically his chance of sticking alive, and he chose wrong.
They did the whole Carlito's Way thing.
Yes.
They did that instead of what was really happening. Yeah.
And I will say it was upsetting. Obviously, it's upsetting if you kill anyone, but during that sequence, we see like a little girl, and I thought that was pretty intense to see. And I think he says something like, "You were just at the wrong place at the wrong time." I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. He keeps getting confronted with like harder and harder to justify murders, and he keeps doing it. And you're like, okay, well, this guy is never going to be rehabilitated, and that's when it ends.
Yeah.
And once we get back to the funeral home, this time they pull a gun on him, because then we come to realize that the three guys that end up shooting Crazy K are the three guys here. And they're just telling him what the fuck is going on, and that they just want the fucking shit. Give him the shit, or they're going to blow him away. So he takes them down to the basement, where he ends up showing them their own bodies. And you find out that they were shot and killed by Crazy K's guys. They don't say a time period, but they just say right after they had killed Crazy K that they were shot and killed. And that's when Sims turns into the actual devil, which is a cool fucking effect. Like he looks fucked up. The devil, and they're just burning.
Welcome to hell. Wow, so good.
And it just ends with them burning. And I just think it's such a great. Everything just falls away from the funeral home, and they're actually in fucking hell. I think it's so fucking fantastic how it looks, and how it just cuts away as they are all burning. What did you guys feel about the ending of this?
I thought it was a really strong ending. I wasn't expecting that. Really, I didn't really know what was going to happen with this wraparound story, but I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. That like he's just like, yeah, you guys suck too. Welcome to hell.
I think a lot of times the wraparound stories they're pretty weak. Like usually this is kind of like a throwback to like every single Amicus anthology. We're like, oh, the people that are hearing the stories have been dead the whole time. But Tales from the Hood does it best. Like it's been done like 10 times before this, but Tales from the Hood does it the most stylistic way that it's ever been done. So I gotta give kudos to that. Tales from the Hood is at the top.
Which, before we get to the ratings of this movie, is there anything you guys would like to bring up that we haven't actually touched upon?
I really wish I had time to do fun facts and research, but I will fully admit I finished watching this movie a few minutes before we started today, so I'm very sad because I think this movie is really underrated. Like I really hadn't heard much about it at all, so I thought this was a great first time watch. And apparently there's sequels. I don't know if they're good or not, but I'm definitely interested to check them out.
They're all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought this was awesome.
But Tales from the Hood is like definitely way above it. What I will say is, if you do like Tales from the Hood and you've watched this movie and you like the style of it, Rusty Cundiff also did a really funny rap parody movie about like a rap group called Fear of a Black Hat. Watch that too. It's one of my favorite comedies. Not many people talk about it. Not this isn't. I know this isn't why we love comedy, but if I could just stop for a second, Fear of a Black Hat. Watch that movie, and then watch Tales from the Hood too. They're both good.
Fair enough. Yeah, let's get straight to the ratings. I'll start on this one. I watched this movie in the theater with my family, which again, it's very weird that my family would bring me to these type of movies as a child, but fuck it. I absolutely loved it as a child. I watched it throughout my entire childhood, all the way to now. I watch it every couple of years, and I love it every single time. Clarence Williams is just fucking amazing in everything he does, and especially this. He holds this fucking movie together so easily, and David Allen Greer is fucking amazing. All the supporting cast are great. I absolutely love this movie. It's a great fucking movie to me. 5 VHS tapes for me. Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, no, I really liked this movie a lot. I definitely can see this going up on rewatches. Yeah, I thought, again, I'm not as well versed in horror anthologies as John. I'm making my way through, but this is definitely one of the strongest I've seen so far. And I would give it 4 VHS tapes. Yeah, I think the effects are great. I think all the stories are really strong, and I think it has really great social commentary without being very heavy-handed. I think there's a good balance with it all. And really well paced too, because I feel like that's something I struggle with anthologies. I thought this was really well paced and well done.
I like it. And John?
Yeah, I think just piggyback on what Melissa said. A lot of times with anthologies, the pacing is weird because you have multiple directors. But this is, like I said before, like with the Mortuary Collection, you got one director. They dictate what's going on. So I think this cures a lot of the ills a lot of other anthologies have. I used to be 4 out of 5 on this movie, but I realized as we were talking about it that I fucking love this movie. So I bumped it up to 4.5. I actually edited my letterbox while we were talking. Yeah, because I realized like as I talk about it and listen to myself talk about it, I'm not talking about it like it's a 4-star movie. I'm talking about it like it's got to be near a 5-star. I think there's some small missteps. I do think the last segment's a little bit weak. That's the only bad thing I can say about it. Everybody slays. They got people to take risks in this movie. Like, you don't say that about a horror movie like making this much social commentary, and it's also like almost 20 years ago this came out. So like crazy. Like, yeah, 4.5.
I like it. Well, yeah, that was our conversation on the Blackening and Tales from the Hood. Who would like to talk about the movies we're going to be talking about next week?
Well,
I don't have much to say about it, but I'll tell you what we're watching because I haven't seen either of these. So next week we are going to be watching God is a Bullet and I Saw the Devil. So I'm excited for another 2 movies I've not seen. How do you guys feel about it?
Quick edit. Let me correct myself. Tales from the Hood came out 28 years ago, which is even so. Wow. It's almost 30 years ago, which is bizarre to me. I was in high school. I didn't realize that this came out when I was in high school, but now I'm remembering. I think it did come out when I was in high school. So there's that. Yeah. Like we had a discussion before we went on camera for next week, and some people I know in this community don't watch trailers. Some people do watch trailers. If you do watch trailers, check out the God is a Bullet trailer because it's fucking fire. And I Saw the Devil. If you haven't seen I Saw the Devil, what the hell are you waiting for? I Saw the Devil is also like a crazy good movie. So we're gonna watch both of those next week.
Yeah, God is a Bullet. I saw the trailer today, and goddamn, I cannot wait to see what that movie holds. And yeah, I Saw the Devil is fantastic. I cannot wait to talk about that movie. And that is next week. So make sure to, like, subscribe, all that good shit. Follow us on the Video Store Facebook page. Go follow us on our TikTok, on Instagram. All that shit's right there because of Melissa. Melissa brought that shit there, which is awesome.
And tonight, when this airs, live tonight, there will be the first live Why We Love Horror trivia match right here in the Video Store. I think we're dropping that at 10 p.m. Be there.
Yes. Be there. Watch it. It's going to be fucking fantastic. Watch all the other great shit as we do. And yeah, follow us on Letterboxd as usual. We always have our shit up there, so please follow us. It'd be awesome. And then yeah, comment on this video. I answer all the fucking comments. One of us will fucking answer them for sure. So please comment away. And yeah, that ends it for us. I'm Mr. DVD. That is John. That is Melissa. I guess we will see you next time on Why We Love Horror.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Be sure to bring your death certificate.